All right, welcome everyone to the Life After AmeriCorps panel. I'm excited to have so many of you on the line, and we have a lot of panelists and former CivicSpark members joining us in a little bit. And we're still waiting for a few people to join, but I think we can get started. So on the webinar today, we're going to be doing this in two parts. The first is a short presentation that I'm going to be doing focusing on the technical aspects of Life After AmeriCorps. So we'll be talking about forbearance and loans, your education award, how do you use that, how do you access it, AmeriCorps Alumni, which is another resource that you're going to have access to at the end of your service year. We're going to talk about some of the upcoming trainings that are coming down the pipe to get you ready for Life After CivicSpark and Life After AmeriCorps. And then if we have some time, then we're going to do some questions about the technical aspects, and then we're going to segue into Life After CivicSpark. And we're really lucky to be joined by 4 former CivicSpark members who are going to talk about their experience as CivicSpark Fellows, about their job search, and where they are now. So a lot to cover, so I'll try to be quick with this presentation portion so we have plenty of time to ask questions to our former CivicSpark Fellows. So as always, if you have any questions at all, just please chat them in on the question bar on the side, and I'll be checking that throughout the presentation. So if you can't hear me or need me to talk slower or louder, just let me know. So first, talking about forbearance. So if you put your loans into forbearance at the beginning of the service year, you can apply for interest repayment. And really quickly, I guess, before going too deep into this, all of these resources I will share over email at the end of the webinar. So you will get this PowerPoint, and then I've got a couple of other info sheets as well. So definitely take notes if there are things that you have questions about, but we will be sending out all of these references as well. So loans automatically go out of forbearance as we exit you from the system. So this is going to happen before the end of September if you are, in fact, ending on September 16th. If you work through October, that will be happening before the end of October. So just be ready for it. Start thinking about preparations for when your loans go out of forbearance. And if you are thinking about applying for interest repayment, which you definitely should if you put your loans into forbearance, typically AmeriCorps will pay all interest for any qualified student loans. So the deferment and forbearance process and period really depends on your lender. So really, and this is going to be a theme, contact your lender prior to the end of the service year if you have any questions, and they'll be able to tell you exactly when your next payment will be due, because it depends so much on who your lender is, what your next steps are going to be. So definitely, if you have questions, reach out, ask your lender. So how do you get your interest repaid from forbearance? So you're going to be going into your myamericorps.gov account, and if you can't remember your password, we cannot access the MyAmeriCorps portal. This came up during orientation quite a bit. So in a couple of slides, we have all the contact info for myamericorps.gov helpline. So reach out to them if you have any problems at all on the portal, but unfortunately, CivicSpark staff members don't have access to the portal. So when you're looking to repay your interest, you should be going to the same area on myamericorps.gov where you put your loans into forbearance at the start of the service year. And what you're going to do is you're going to click on the Create Interest Accrual link at the top of the page. And that's going to bring up a separate page for you to actually request an interest payment be made on the interest that your loans accrued during the service year. So in this page, you're going to select the appropriate term of service and the type of loan that you're requesting an interest or payment on. There'll be a space for you to identify who the holder of your student loan is. And from there, you'll click on Submit, and that notice will go directly to your loan company. And you should see in myamericorps.gov at that point that a request is going to appear on your home account. If you don't see that, call the helpline, and they can let you know why you're having some trouble seeing that. But from there, once AmeriCorps has actually completed the payment to your lender, and your lender has received it, you'll get another notice in your account that's saying that the whole transaction's been completed. So just keep checking back on myamericorps.gov as you go through that process. And here's the info for the tip line, or the helpline, 1-800-942-2677. They will be able to answer all of your questions about interest repayment, about loans, everything. So definitely reach out to them if you're having any problems navigating myamericorps.gov. So now transitioning to talk about the Ed Award. We talked a lot about the Ed Award during orientation, but I'm sure many months out, a lot of that's a little blurry. So this will be a lot of just refreshing information that we talked about before. So the Ed Award can go towards either future education or paying your loans, and we'll talk in much more detail about both of those options throughout the webinar. The award can be used for both non-degree and certificate courses. We'll be talking a lot about some of the different alternatives that you can look into and what institutions are available and eligible to use the Siegel Education Award. But the best way to find out if it's possible to use an Ed Award at an institution is to contact the financial aid office. They're going to be making a lot of the decisions about your Ed Award, if it can be doubled, what particular aspects of your college or post-degree options that it can actually cover. So the financial aid office is really the place to go for any questions regarding your Ed Award. You have 7 years to use the Ed Award, as we mentioned at orientation, and if you don't complete it within the 7 years, you can apply to have that period extended. But if you're doing that, there needs to be a pretty robust explanation for why you didn't use it within that period. If you go and do another AmeriCorps service term, you can extend your Ed Award, or if there's any serious illness or hardship that you need to deal with, those are all reasons for extending the Ed Award. And also, you can get 2 Ed Awards. So if you serve 2 AmeriCorps terms, you are eligible for 2 separate Ed Awards, but you can't get more than 2. You can't get more than 2 Ed Awards. And they are, in general, non-transferable, except to children or grandchildren. But again, that has an expiration date. So if you're transferring it on to a child, you do need to use it within that 7-year period still. And yes, please continue to type questions in the chat bar. If anything is an immediate question relating to the slide, we can answer it as we go, but if not, we'll answer some questions at the end of the presentation. So for the Education Award, you can divide it up into as many portions as you'd like and use it at different times, as long as you're using it within that 7-year period, and as long as you have it for authorized expenditures, which we'll talk a little bit more about. And here's the AmeriCorps support number again, but also the email and the website for direct info on your Ed Award. And we'll be sending this out, but if you want to take note of that and write that down, that would probably be helpful as you start navigating and thinking about how you want to be using your Ed Award at the end of the service term. So the Ed Award is accessible and arrives in your MyAmeriCorps account approximately 6 weeks after you are exited from CivicSpark. So what does it mean to be exited? So around August, we're going to be sending out exit forms to the whole cohort. And these are the forms that on your last day or after your last day of service, really, we'll be sending to and inputting you into eGrants, which is our reporting system with AmeriCorps, and that's how you're officially exited from the program. So when we send out these forms to you in August, be sure that you're sending them back as quickly as possible so that at the end of the service year, we're not waiting to exit you, because that's just going to delay the process of you getting your Ed Award. So we do have 30 days to exit you from your last day of service, but we'll typically do that sooner. In general, you should all have access to your Ed Award by the mid to end of November if you're ending on September 16th, and if you're ending in the middle of October, it should be about mid-December when you're getting your Ed Award. And the Ed Award, again, is distributed on myamericorps.gov. MyAmeriCorps.gov is going to be your friend at the end of your service year. And on the AmeriCorps portal, you can choose an institution for payment for your education award, and that could go to a university or some of the other institutions that we're going to talk about on one of the next slides. And it can be used for tuition, for a bunch of different costs that you might not even think are eligible for Ed Award, but we'll go through those and detail them a little bit more. Any continued education, and that has a pretty broad definition, as we'll see in a couple of minutes. Or you can choose a lender for your education award as well. So you can make a payment on an existing federally backed student loan. And all on myAmeriCorps.gov, you'll be able to select the institution that you want to be making a payment to, select the amount that you want to make the payment for, and schedule a payment to be sent all through the portal. So that's really where you're going to be doing most of your work with the Ed Award. So if you want to use the Ed Award for loans, it can be used for any federally backed student loan. So the way it works, if you were able to put your loan into forbearance at the beginning of the service year, you'll be able to use your Ed Award on it. So that if you have been using forbearance, you'll be able to apply your Ed Award come November. And you can divide it into smaller batches or make multiple loan payments. And I think that's a really good thing to think about, because Ed Award will be considered taxable income. So the more you use it one time, the higher your tax burden is going to be for that year. So, I mean, one example that we have, if you're making smaller payments over several years, you're only going to be taxed on that smaller amount versus the whole, $57.75, which you're going to be getting in a single year. And it's possible that if you do use the whole Ed Award amount in 1 year, you're going to be bumping yourself up to another income bracket, which was something that some of our members saw last year and had to work to fix when they got a really crazy tax return or lack thereof. And you can't use this for monthly payments, just because it does take about 4 weeks for your payment request to be processed. So if you're thinking about doing monthly payments, or if that's what you're planning on doing, you're going to need to talk to your lender about it, because it doesn't typically work out. So there would need to be some flexibility built in, just because it can take 4 weeks or more for loan requests to be processed. And then using this for future schooling, the Ed Award is accepted at any Title IV university, so any accredited school, and it doesn't need to be tied to a degree. So if you're not planning on going back to grad school, but would really love to take an art class or a language class at an accredited university, you can do that and apply your Ed Award to it. So it's definitely, as I'm saying, it's very flexible. And also, you're going to want to, as I said, work with the financial aid office to make sure that you're getting the best aid package possible with your Ed Award. So we'll talk a little bit more about tips for that in the coming slides, but you're going to want to make sure that your Ed Award isn't hurting the amount of financial aid that you're eligible for, but also that if there are opportunities to double that, that's getting done. So some institutions that actually do match the Ed Award, the link at the bottom, which again I'll be sending out, has a whole list of colleges and universities around the country that do in fact match your Ed Award. Up on the slide, I just put in some universities that are in California that do match the Ed Award, but definitely if you're interested in going to grad school, take a look at this link and check out some of the different universities that will match the Ed Award, because that's a very large list. There are tons of universities focusing on all different things around the country, and you're going to get over $10,000 applied toward your grad school or future learning if you do pair with a university that does match the Ed Award. So some additional continued education tips. You're going to want to keep the money in myAmeriCorps.gov until it's ready to use. So this is what I mentioned a couple of slides ago. If the money is sitting at the financial aid office, that might actually hurt the amount of aid that the school is able to give you, because that's funds that you have ready to go. So you have 7 years to use the award. If you can keep it in AmeriCorps.gov and you would use it in some smaller installments, that might in the long run help you out when it comes to financial aid. And you can also use your Ed Award for things other than admissions, as I mentioned. So any really essential gear, if you're taking a photography class, that's going to be a camera. So there are some really creative ways to use it. Talk to the financial aid offices at universities, and you might be able to do things like purchase a laptop or software, supplies for class, and really be able to use that for a variety of things if you're not just thinking of going straight down the grad school route. Some additional non-traditional uses of the Ed Award. One is the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. So this is available to borrowers with federal student loans made through the William D. Ford Federal Direct Loan Program. So it's one of the 3 major student loans available. And if you enter and continue working in full-time public service employment and have made 120 payments or more to your student loan, you can get the rest of your student loan forgiven, which is a pretty cool opportunity. So we'll be sending more information on the loan forgiveness program, but that's definitely something to look into if you know that you do have a William D. Ford Federal Direct Loan. If you're interested in outdoor ed, Knowles and National Outdoor Leadership School and Outward Bound both have really great Ed Award programs where you can take courses, become leader certified, and lead for these organizations and kind of get around the cost of going through the training program by using your Ed Award. There are a number of trade schools that offer Ed Award classes, and that's like if you want to learn cooking or dance or really a number of other things. There's a huge list of trade schools that if you want to learn any specific skill, you can apply your Ed Award to use that. So I'll be sending that list out to you all soon as well. There are a number of schools overseas that are also accredited institutions. So if you're interested in doing more of an international learning experience, definitely look into any overseas schools that would be able to take an Ed Award. And there are also overseas service programs. There's a program run through the University of Albany that does service abroad, and there are some costs associated with that, flights and different certifications that you'll need, and the Ed Award can cover that. So again, I'll be sending information on all of these out after the webinar today, but there are a lot of opportunities to use your Ed Award for any professional development that you want after the CivicSpark service year, even if it's not directly going into grad school. So for taxes, not the most fun part of the Ed Award, it's going to be taxed at the interest rate in the year which it's used, so about 4% this year. In general, AmeriCorps members will pay about $500 on the Ed Award, so that's something that you should just keep in mind as you go to use your Ed Award. And again, spreading out the Ed Award over a couple of years is really going to ease the burden that you have. And the interest repayment is also taxed. So if AmeriCorps is repaying your interest on your loan that you put into forbearance, that amount that they're paying is going to be taxed as if it was your personal income. So awards and interest are considered income, and they're just going to be added to your total income and taxed at that rate at the end of the year. So just something that you're going to want to keep in mind as you start going forward and moving towards doing your taxes next year. And if you do have any problems paying taxes as an AmeriCorps member, you can also appeal to the Taxpayer Relief Act of 1997, and that is just going to give you a little bit of flexibility if you are running into any issues paying taxes. And you'll have to contact the IRS to figure out options, but there are certainly opportunities there to work with you to reduce this tax burden because you are doing a national service program. And another tax thing to keep in mind, if your education award and interest payments total more than $600 in a calendar year, in January of the following year, the Corporation for National and Community Service, CNCS, is going to send you a Form 1099, and this is just going to be used for preparing your income tax return. So if you are using a chunk of your Ed Award that's $600 or more, or if you put your if you had your interest repaid, just keep track of how much that's totaling and take a look for that Form 1099 in the mail next January. And then one of the last things that we're going to talk about briefly is AmeriCorps Alum. So AmeriCorpsAlums.org is a really great resource for all AmeriCorps alums. Their access to regional alumni chapters, job boards, professional development tools, training webinars, and so much more. So go on my AmeriCorps Alums or AmeriCorpsAlums.org and make an account as soon as possible, and you'll get access to a lot of networking opportunities. There's a lot of employers that reach out directly to AmeriCorps alums to hire former AmeriCorps members. There are job boards that you can log on to, as well as virtual grad school fairs. So a lot of opportunities to just learn about a lot of next steps that are available to former AmeriCorps members. There are as well opportunities to continue your service. So other AmeriCorps programs will post a lot on AmeriCorps alums, and just another opportunity to link with others who have done national service in your community or region. So great resources and opportunities there. And as well, if you're, we've talked a lot about the technical aspects of filing your taxes and working with your Ed Award and all of that. AmeriCorps alums, there are opportunities to get help completing your taxes for free. And this is only available through the website. So again, just create an account as soon as possible. And then there are also discounted opportunities for insurance as well, for health insurance, auto insurance. So just go on and explore the website. There are a ton of resources that, again, CivicSpark staff members can't get access to, but as former AmeriCorps members, or soon to be former AmeriCorps members, you can log in and see all the different resources that are available to you. So really quickly, we have some additional upcoming trainings in the next month. We're going to be having an environmental career panel on Tuesday, July 19th, and that's going to feature a panel of professionals in the environmental sector that work in a bunch of different realms and many different fields and have taken very roundabout paths to where they're going. So it's a really great opportunity to see about where you can actually go post CivicSpark and see all the different opportunities that are available to you. Then we're going to be doing a civil service info session and career panel again on Tuesday, July 26th. And we've been working with the Governor's Office of Operations to actually do a very tailored training for CivicSpark Fellows using the questions that you all submitted a few weeks ago about the civil service process. So folks from the Governor's Office are going to put together a presentation on how to actually navigate the civil service process, things to look for, job opportunities, what different classifications mean, what it looks like to take civil service tests, and they're going to be getting a panel of young folks in the government sector in some of the different departments that you suggested that you might be interested in hearing from, and they're going to do a career panel for you as well. And then we're also have got a number of regional trainings that have been happening. So some of you have done some elevator pitches, worked on your resumes, your cover letters, things like that. So if you haven't scheduled those with your RCs yet, definitely reach out to them and see when those are coming. But before the end of the service year, there are a lot of professional development resources that they all have that they're going to be sharing with you so that you're really going to be well to move on to a new career at the end of the CivicSpark service year. So I've got a couple of questions that have come in. If my graduate school doesn't currently match the Ed Award, is it appropriate or possible to ask if they can do so? Yes, actually. So there's a big push from AmeriCorps to actually get universities to sign on to become matching institutions. So there's definitely an opportunity to do so. So if you don't see that your graduate school doesn't currently match the Ed Award, reach out to the financial aid office. When I send the resources out later, I'll share the link on the website about universities joining the match program. And that's something that you can share. I think the motto with so much of this is it doesn't hurt to ask, because there is not really defined rules around a lot of the Ed Award aspects. So definitely reach out and definitely ask. So how long are our CivicSpark email addresses active at the end of the service year? So typically we cut off the email accounts about 4 months after the end of the service year. We will be sending out all of the kind of next step paperwork very soon, and you'll have to transition anything that you would like to keep at the end of the service year, things that you had on Google Drive, any emails, you'll have to migrate them over to a personal email account within as soon as possible after the end of the service year, but typically around 4 months we'll cut off the email accounts and we'll give you all plenty of advance notice before we do that. Can I only apply for AmeriCorps to pay off the year's interest after the end of the forbearance period? So you're going to want to do that pretty much as soon as possible. You can look on the My AmeriCorps portal now, and I actually don't know 100% if you can start that process before the end of the service year. Your forbearance period will end right on your last day of service, so I think there is an opportunity to apply for interest repayment for that last day, just so that you're not kind of waiting a couple of weeks for that to kick in. But take a look on myamericorps.gov now, and if you can't access that, definitely reach out to the helpline number that I shared, and they'll be able to tell you exactly when you can get access to that. So at this point, I would like to transition over to our Life After CivicSpark panel. So we have 4 former CivicSpark members, Xenia Montero, Maya Bruguera, Tommy Ta, and Aldrin Carrion, who are all either on the line now or are joining us in the next couple of minutes. But I'm going to be passing it over to them to give a little bit of an introduction to themselves, talk about where they're originally from, where their major was in college, give you some more background about what their pre-CivicSpark experience was. They'll also talk a little bit about what they actually did during the service year, and then kind of how that led to their post-CivicSpark career path. At first, before we're transitioning into a panel, we're going to have Xenia Montero, who needs to leave a little bit early, so we're going to let her go first and give her overview. But she actually has access to a webcam, I believe.
Actually, I couldn't connect to my webcam, so I'm just going to do audio if that's okay.
Oh yeah, that's totally fine.
Okay.
So I'll pass it over to Xenia to give her introduction, and then if folks can type in questions that they have for either Xenia or for a whole career panel, we're going to have a lot of time for questions and asking former CivicSpark Fellows how they actually moved on to careers afterwards. So thank you so much, Xenia, for joining us, and I'll pass it over to you.
Okay, hello everybody. Greetings from New York, New York. I'm Xenia Montero, and I was part of the inaugural class of CivicSpark last year, CivicSpark 2014-2015. I'm originally from Los Angeles, California. I went to UCLA, graduated in 2012. I majored in political science with a concentration in American politics. I had 2 minors. One minor was in environmental systems and society. My second minor was in civic engagement, so I thought that CivicSpark would be a perfect place for me. Prior to CivicSpark, I was actually in the legal field. I did environmental law at the White House Council on Environmental Quality. I worked for a couple of nonprofit law firms in Los Angeles, and I did housing law, labor law, all these types of different laws until I realized that the law wasn't for me, and so that's why I took up the AmeriCorps experience, because I wanted to transition from law into some sort of environmental policy career. And I was placed in the San Joaquin Valley region with a couple of other CivicSpark AmeriCorps Fellows, including Tommy Ta, who you'll be speaking to later. And I was placed at the San Joaquin Valley Clean Energy Organization. I was an energy analyst with them. We looked at the energy use of a couple of different local government buildings and recommended energy projects to reduce their carbon emissions and their carbon footprints. And once I graduated, I was offered a position with the Alliance to Save Energy, as a local project leader or consultant, which went hand in hand with my experience with CivicSpark and San Joaquin Valley Clean Energy Organization. With SJV CEO, I was working with Pacific Gas and Electric, which is the utility up in Northern California, and with the Alliance to Save Energy post CivicSpark graduation, I worked with Southern California Edison, which is the utility in Southern California, and I worked with school districts in implementing energy efficiency projects there. After that, I worked with a couple of solar companies to consult with them, and I just started my first year in my Master of Public Administration program in Environmental Science and Policy at Columbia University in New York. I was actually given the Dean's Fellowship, which means I got a full ride. I also have an internship with the Earth Institute, and this was all because of the opportunities that CivicSpark gave me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Enia. So everyone keep typing in questions on the side, but one of the first questions that we have for you is how did you decide to pursue what you were going into after your CivicSpark year? You definitely talked a little bit about that, but could you talk more about what your job search process was at the end of the CivicSpark year?
Yes. I'm trying to think back about what was my train of thought going into the job search. I actually started looking for jobs maybe 3 months before graduation because I knew I didn't want to stay in San Joaquin Valley. I wanted to go back to my family in Los Angeles. So I was looking at a couple of jobs in Los Angeles, and what's great right now about the economy, we can pick and choose what's a great fit, and I thought a great fit would be something that had to do with energy, and I wanted to utilize the skills that I attained from my fellowship as an AmeriCorps CivicSpark member. So I just wanted to, I guess, build on those energy project management skills, and that's why I decided to go into energy consulting.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any, and it sounds like starting 3 months out is really great. Are there any other steps that you wish you had taken as a fellow to better prepare you for your post-CivicSpark experience?
If I were to stay in the Valley, I guess just go to different networking events and also talking to your placements, your organization that you're placed with. They're great resources, and actually I was offered a job with the San Joaquin Valley Clean Energy Organization, but I had to turn it down because I moved away. But your bosses, your supervisors, they're great resources. The regional supervisors are amazing. They all have connections, and they all want you to succeed. So definitely reach out to your regional supervisors, your placement supervisors, and to your fellow CivicSpark fellows, because I know I kind of spammed people with jobs towards the end of my CivicSpark year because a lot of people were recommending me for jobs, and I just kind of forwarded that to everyone else. So definitely use each other as a resource as well.
Great. Another question that came through is, how did you come across the fellowship for your grad program at Columbia, and what are some tips you can give to aspiring grad students in terms of looking for fellowships?
Okay, definitely. What was great about CivicSpark is that it was flexible and that I could study for my GRE. So the first step is to do really well in your GRE. I recommend Magoosh, that's Magoosh, for a prep. It's kind of self-study, so you can do it on your iPhone or your Android. You can just do your GRE prep that way. And honestly, I came across this program with I think it was the AmeriCorps Career Fair, and one of the recruiters I talked to, she told me to visit, and I did. And I applied to the program just like everyone else, but apparently I was the top applicant, so I was recommended by the director to the dean. So, but I know that a lot of different grad schools, they do give preferential treatment to AmeriCorps members because you show this dedication to public service. Great.
Excellent. And another question is, what are some networking events that you went to as a fellow?
Okay. Well, I was in Fresno, so it's a very small town compared to Los Angeles and San Francisco, but I did go to a lot of their community events. we had this thing called Better Blackstone, which was held by Fresno Metro Ministry. And in that town, in Fresno, all the professionals kind of went to the same events. So that's what I did. I would just go on Facebook, look at community events, talk to my site supervisors, and kind of see where they're going. So I was kind of just a leech, and I just followed them everywhere. And yeah, that's what I did.
Awesome, great. And I know you need to head out in a couple of minutes, but if you could leave fellows with a piece of advice regarding the job search process, what would it be?
I guess just put your best foot forward and always be open to different opportunities. Coming into CivicSpark, I wanted to do more conservation, and I wasn't really looking at energy so much, but because I was open to it, it really gave me a lot of opportunities to, oops. Hello, sorry, I guess, can everyone hear me?
Hi, yes, I can.
Yeah, okay, sorry. The screen just like popped down. Yeah, so just be open-minded and definitely get your resume and cover letter reviewed by everyone else. I think, again, your supervisors are your best resource to review your resume and cover letter. And also, I'm available to look at people's resumes, cover letters. Please use me as a resource as well. You can find me on LinkedIn. So yeah, so just definitely look at Idealist. That's Idealist, Indeed, and also there's this LinkedIn group called Green Careers or Green Jobs. That's also a great place to look for jobs.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Enia. Really appreciate you calling in and giving us so much of your time.
No problem. Yes, and if you just want to give them my email or my LinkedIn, that'd be perfectly fine.
Excellent. Much appreciated.
All right. Good luck, everybody. Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye. All right. So now we've got Maya, Tommy, and Aldrin all on the phone, and I'm going to unmute them. It looks like, Tommy, if you could call in through either the phone or through your computer. I'm having a hard time unmuting you right now. So you might need to re-call in. But are Aldrin and Maya both on the phone?
Yeah, this is Maya. I'm here.
Hi, this is Aldrin. Can you hear me?
Yep, great. And Tommy, are you there yet? Okay, I see that Tommy is logged in, but if you can work on recalling in through the phone line, I think that might work a little bit better. But in the meantime, if Maya, we'll start with you. If you want to give a little bit of an introduction to your time before CivicSpark, what you actually did as a CivicSpark Fellow, and give us a little bit of a insight into what you've done since you graduated from the program.
Yeah, definitely. So hi, everybody. My name is Maya Bruguera. I'm originally from the Bay Area, and I went to UCLA and studied environmental science with a GIS minor. And I went straight from UCLA into CivicSpark, but while I was at UCLA, I did a number of different research programs over the summer. So I studied in Costa Rica and did watershed health and water quality research. At UCLA, I also did a number of different GIS-based research programs on like groundwater pollution, remote sensing-based research on Greenland ice sheet melt, and field research on seagrass in California bays. And that led me to CivicSpark, where I was placed at the LA County Office of Sustainability. And I worked on an EVSE business plan and a building benchmarking effort and the Property Assessed Clean Energy, or PACE program. And I think the PACE was probably my biggest project there, and I worked to build an Excel tool that vetted the applications for the program. And then after CivicSpark, my regional partner, LA County, hired me on to work there on the PACE program and on a number of other renewable energy efforts. And from there, I knew that I wanted to go into probably like private consulting. So I saw the ICF job that KIF had sent around, and I applied. And I got it, and now I'm here. And at ICF, we work on, I'm within the climate and sustainability division, so we work on a variety of different projects within climate mitigation, climate adaptation, and sustainability in transit. Our clients are mainly federal government clients like EPA, USAID, FHWA. So some of the projects that I'm working on right now are like a USAID looking at different countries' internationally determined contributions toward the Paris climate commitment. So looking at what sort of emissions reductions they're planning on and how we can help support them through USAID programs like low emission development programs. And then for we also work for state government clients like the California Natural Resources Council and the California Energy Commission, and we're working on the California Fourth Climate Assessment right now. We're helping out with some research programs looking at climate vulnerability of utilities, specifically SDG&E, and looking at both vulnerability and adaptation options. And we're also doing a partnership with LGC on one of the programs where we're looking at barriers to adaptation in California local governments and adaptation financing. And then we also have corporate clients for whom we do GHG inventories mostly. So like Sony, National Geographic, eBay are some of the ones that I worked on. And then we also work on transportation research programs. So we're working on developing a transit sustainability toolkit. So yeah, those are a number of the different projects that I've worked on here at ICF.
Great. Sounds like you're quite busy over there.
Yeah, we got a large diversity of projects.
Great, thank you. And Aldrin, do you want to give your introduction, please?
Yeah. Okay, great. I'm originally from LA County, and I went to school in Berkeley, so in the Bay Area, so direct opposite of Maya. And I majored in poli-sci and econ, and straight out of college, I did CivicSpark, working on a large multi-city project within the Bay Area, mostly within 4 cities, including in Silicon Valley, Redwood City, Mountain View, and Sunnyvale, doing a lot of greenhouse gas inventories and community outreach, partnering with on the local and state level to do their climate action projects. But prior to that, my experiences were mostly in local and state government. And after CivicSpark, I left the local and state government and transitioned to the federal level. So I'm actually calling from Washington, D.C. right now. And after and post CivicSpark, I did an internship at the White House, and now I'm at an agency at DHS, working on mostly not specifically climate or environmental policy related, but on the more general. And I'm not actually allowed to say too much, but most of my or part of my portfolio is working on like climate change and how that relates to global and domestic security here at home.
Awesome, great, thank you so much, Aldrin. So we're getting a lot of questions in, and please keep sending those in to all of our panelists. And before going into questions, Tommy, are you on the line? I see you there, but I don't know if you're connected to audio. No. Okay. So as we try to figure out Tommy's audio situation, I don't know if you want to try calling, disconnecting and calling back in through a panelist link. That might work a little better, but we'll keep trying to get you connected on that front. So the first question is for Maya. What steps or conversations did you take immediately at the end of your fellowship to be hired on at your site, or to get an offer from your actual CivicSpark placement?
Yeah. Um, I guess I would say it was less about like conversations that I had and steps that I took, more about like while you're working on your project, you kind of demonstrate your value and demonstrate what you can contribute to the organization. And I was kind of in a position where we were working on a pretty important project, and um, where I helped them develop a tool that was pretty indispensable to their program. And so they kind of needed to hire me on to like continue to run it. Um, so yeah, it was more about like if you make yourself indispensable and put yourself in a position where you're working on something that's really, really important, then they will they will most likely hire you on. Obviously, I mean, like also having a good relationship. I was fortunate to have a really nice regional partner, and we had a great relationship. But I think a lot of it is about the work that you're doing.
Great, thank you. And the next question's for Aldrin. Can you talk a little bit about the process of applying to the White House Fellowship Program and how you used kind of your experience with CivicSpark to go through that process?
Yeah, so I think one of the major benefits of doing CivicSpark is that it gives you a lot of a real world experience, and I definitely emphasize that during my interviews and even in my application. The basic process is that you go through the whole application process online. There's a form you have to fill out and a few essays. And I guess the basic premise of CivicSpark and any AmeriCorps program really is your commitment to public service. So that's a lot. You really have to stress that in your application, and then moving forward to the interview. Just talk about like all the different things you've done, all the skills you have gained throughout your time at CivicSpark. And I think just even within those skills, moving on to any job, whether it's at the White House or anywhere else, I think it's really valuable. And I don't think you'll see it right away, but um, everything you've worked on, those skills are transferable to whatever you do afterwards.
Great, thank you. Question for both of you. How did you use your Ed Award? Or how are you planning to use your Ed Award? And do you have any advice for the current fellows? I don't know, who would like to go first?
I'll go. I haven't used mine yet, uh, but definitely considering using it for a grad program, uh, if I plan to go. But I think, I don't know if you guys did this presentation this year, but last year we had a presentation on all the like unique ways that you can use your Ed Award. So like even if you're not planning on going to grad school, there are definitely a lot of options.
Yes, we just finished it a couple of slides ago, and we're sending out a
Oh,
lot of the
cool.
resources
Oh,
afterwards.
great.
So yeah, definitely. And how
Mine
about
was mine was along the same lines. I haven't used mine yet. I'm planning on using it towards grad school in the future. I'm not sure if Xenia might have talked about this. Some graduate programs look at whether you've done an AmeriCorps program, and you can qualify for certain fellowships or scholarships to those program in those programs.
Yeah, Xenia talked a little bit about that with her current fellowship program. I think that's definitely an awesome benefit. Great. Um, the next question is for Maya. How did you know that you wanted to go into private consulting?
Yeah. Um, I guess after a year at the county, kind of the atmosphere and the culture was a lot of what drove me to want to go into private consulting. I was working with really great people in the sustainability office, but getting work done often required outside help from other departments. And there was a lot of bureaucracy and aversion to risk and aversion to change that I found really frustrating. So that was the main driver. But also in private consulting, I feel like you got a lot more experience with a larger diversity of projects. So like at the county, I would have been primarily working on PACE, which is like mainly energy and water efficiency. Whereas here at ICF, we work on climate adaptation, climate mitigation, like energy efficiency, transportation, like everything you can imagine. So that was another factor.
Great. One very specific question that came through is ICF hiring? And if so, what does the process look like to apply for a job at ICF for another private consulting firm?
Yeah. So we do an annual round of like post-college hiring that starts in May usually, and it's pretty much tapering off now. But occasionally we'll get an award where we need to hire someone to work on that project, and I can definitely send around any opportunities like that that come up to CivicSpark. And the process for hiring is, I think, pretty standard. Like you click the link, you fill out the forms. Um, you don't usually need references or a cover, or well, you need to put down references, but you don't need like a reference letter. Yeah, it's just like a standard job application process.
Great, thank you. And it looks like Tommy has been able to connect to audio. Are you on the line, Tommy?
Yes, hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh,
Thank
yes,
you.
so sorry. Yeah, so sorry. I'm calling through the phone. I'm not in front of the computer and trying to figure this thing out. So, yeah, I managed to get through, so sorry for being so late.
Oh my gosh, no worries at all. Thanks for joining. Do you want to give us a little bit of a overview of your pre-CivicSpark path and what you did during the CivicSpark year and where you are now?
Yeah, definitely. I guess before I get started, I just want to say that happy to hear from CivicSpark again, and just being through this call brings back a lot of memories of being CivicSpark through project phone calls and training and webinars and whatnot. And so for my background, I grew up in Anaheim, and I went to school at UC Riverside for my bachelor's in environmental science. And then after that, I went to Chapman University in Orange for my master's, also in environmental science, specifically using satellite data to research different topics like glacier retreat or eutrophication, things like that. And after that, I joined CivicSpark, and projects I was involved with were Complete Streets, which is just cities filling out their Complete Streets applications. And that was 4 workshops throughout San Joaquin Valley, which is where I was in, same as Xenia. And I also worked on the San Joaquin Valley Clean Energy Organization, or Xenia, doing energy benchmarking, data analysis, data entry. And the other 2 projects I was involved with are CAL FIRE grant application assistance, basically reaching out to cities, letting them know about the CAL FIRE grants that were coming up, and assisting them in preparing the resources to get the grants, and like who to speak to and answer their questions. With that one, unfortunately, because of last year, the grants didn't come out, so we weren't able to meet our end goal, but we accumulated a lot of information and data and resources that future grant applicants can use. And the last project was helping Danielle get started on the water drought resistance program, just accumulating information and resources for her to get that program started. And after CivicSpark, I didn't get a job directly afterwards, so I spent good like 3 months looking for a job, and ultimately a recruiter reached out to me because I was just putting my resume on a bunch of job boards and whatnot. And right now I'm in San Diego, and I'm doing a job that's quite different from what everyone else is doing. It's 100% field work, and I'm a contractor for San Diego Gas Electric. I drive around the county in different areas that I'm assigned to, inspecting power lines and trees, and checking to see the trees, because there's rules we have to follow where the tree can only be so far away from power line, or else they can make contact and catch fire and outages and whatnot. So I go around with my tablet and marking down trees that need to be trimmed, or the ones that were trimmed, and see if they need more trimming or if they'll be okay for the cycles. And so that's what I'm doing right now.
Great, thank you. Another question that came through for all of the panelists is something that a lot of the fellows have been thinking about now, is how to talk about national service in job interviews or on your resume or cover letter. Can you talk a little bit about how you have discussed and talked about your AmeriCorps experience in the job search process?
Yeah, I guess I can get started with that. So yeah, with AmeriCorps, it's sometimes kind of a little difficult to explain to people. Even when I was in AmeriCorps, sorry, I'm outside right now. People normally are more familiar with Peace Corps, so I just say it's like domesticated Peace Corps. And then when I have to explain about CivicSpark, I mainly say it's like I try to avoid using the word climate change, so talking about like or global warming, so just talking about like energy, like environmental work involving different projects like drought or energy, and then when I get started with that, then people are more, I guess, familiar with it. And let's see, yeah, that's kind of how I get started with it.
Great, thank you. Maya or Aldrin, do you want to talk about your experience?
Yeah, sure. I guess I find that interesting, Tommy, that you avoided using climate change because I feel like I kind of led with it. Like, the way I presented it was usually that I was an AmeriCorps Service Fellow, and it was through this awesome program called CivicSpark that sets you up to get experience working with climate change and it provides local governments with climate capacity and connects two people to meet each of our needs. Yeah, and basically focused on the idea that I was helping local government build climate capacity and build sustainability capacity that they otherwise wouldn't have.
Great, thank you. Aldrin, is there anything that you want to add?
Yeah, I think if we're talking terminology, I always lead with saying climate action like programs, which is, I guess, a very broad topic, and you can go into depending on like what your projects have been, whether you've been working on energy, whether you've done more field work, or whether you've done more technical project like doing greenhouse gas inventories. But really is being able to talk about like those specifics, what has been involved with them, and like I said before, like what skills you've gained. Like, are you more technically savvy because you've been looking at charts and can take data and create a story from it because you've done greenhouse gas inventory, or are you more do you have like sharper customer service skills because you've been in the field doing community outreaches and generally talking to people about how they can save $50 a month by switching to solar panels and or using low flow toilets. Just things like that. Be able to talk about your experiences in race and using like concrete examples, especially in interviews, I think really helps.
Great, thank you. Another question for all of you. What's one thing that you wish you had done while you were a fellow, or one thing that really made a difference for your success at getting a job? And I'll go to Tommy first because I think you actually need to leave pretty soon. So I'll start with you.
Yeah, thank you. So I think one thing would be, this is pretty obvious, is to be really aggressive with the job hunt. So like I said before, I didn't get a job right out of CivicSpark. So what I would have done differently was be more aggressive. I think like when back in school, like I went to career centers, they say like five jobs a week, that would be okay. But I think even 5 is nothing. Like if you can like apply 10, 20, whatever number, as many as you can, as often as you can, talk to anyone that you can, talk to your supervisors if you want to stay in the region that you were assigned to, talk to your project cohorts like Zena said before, and just be aggressive, always research online. There's like all those government, if you want to work for the government, there's all those government websites, and that you can enter and apply for, especially government jobs. They take a while to process an application and get hired. So if you want to work for the government and find a job that you think is suitable for you, you have to do those early because it could take months to process. So just yeah, so very, very straightforward and obvious. Just be really aggressive and make the most of time that you have left. So I guess like 2 or 3 months, and just keep going forward.
Thank you, Tommy. Maya or Aldrin, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I would say build your network and use it. I think the beauty of CivicSpark and AmeriCorps is that they really touch on a lot of different sectors, public, private, and social. You have the public sector. Obviously, you're partnering with local and state governments, and since it's also an AmeriCorps program, you do have access to the federal side too. So depending on if you want to stay in government, you really have people and networks in all 3 levels, but also LGC. Keep in mind that LGC is also a nonprofit, so you also have the nonprofit side that you can learn a lot from and build your network there, or a lot of other projects contract with in the private sector. So really, even if you think you're busy working on whatever project you're doing, still make time to go get coffee with somebody, and then from there ask them, oh, do you recommend anybody else I can meet? And then you just never know like where your network will lead you in the future.
Thank you, Aldrin. And Maya?
Yeah, I guess similar to what Aldrin's saying, like I'd say take advantage of all the professional development time you can take during CivicSpark and like find conferences in your area, go to them. Like I know in LA there are a ton of really great ones, like put on by like Move LA and all sorts of other organizations like government and non-government. Take advantage and go to those and network with people. Like if you hear a panel that you're really interested in, go up to the panelists afterward and be like, hey, this was like really neat, because they'll be excited to talk to you. That was really useful. And then also I'd say when you're starting to look for jobs, like take a look at the skills that they require and see if there are any of those that you can start developing in CivicSpark. So for instance, if they want like project management skills, then take project management trainings. And yeah, take advantage of that time.
Great, thank you both. Another question for the group is, do you still keep in touch with your project partners to check on the progress of projects, or to just keep them within your network?
Yeah, I guess I can start with that. I actually still, through ICF, contract for my project partner, and still support them for the PACE program. Yeah.
Great, excellent. And Aldrin?
Not necessarily, just because I'm not in the area anymore. But definitely keeping contact with um, your regional supervisor. I know I've contacted mine um, many times while I was applying for other positions, just for like rec letters and just general advice.
Great, thank you. And Tommy, are you still on the line, or have you?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
still here.
All right, Tommy.
I'm still with Aldrin. I'm not in the area that I was assigned to anymore. So that's Key Valley. So I still read like the newsletters, but so if the people are still working on the projects I worked on, then that's the only way I'll know what the updates are. But other than that, I don't really have like new progress on my project. And I still keep in my supervisor from time to time, asking him to be letter or to reference for me for a job application. So he would be like the only, I suppose, person that I still keep in touch with from my area of CivicSpark.
And another question for the group. Do you want to continue what you're doing now, or are you looking to move on to something else?
I can get started with that. This is Tommy.
Great.
For
Thanks,
me,
Tommy.
for me, the job I'm doing now is just something in between. It's not like exactly what I studied, or it's not something that I'm like, I suppose, passionate about, like what I think I'll make a career out of. It's just something to get experience from and just pay the bills, to be honest. And the way I think of when I get a job or am in a job or CivicSpark is try to extract which skills that I think can help me land my dream job in the future. And so, for instance, this current job, I'm getting a lot of field experience, a lot of customer service experience, a lot of GIS experience. So just trying to gather as much of the, I suppose, relevant skills I need for my dream job, whichever it is, and however long it will take there. And so this current job is not my dream job. So after this, I am pursuing jobs more closely related to my studies. So like more research jobs and yeah.
Great, thank you. And Maya or Aldrin?
Yeah. I really like my job right now. I like the work, I like the people, I like the culture, which I feel like are, to me, like the three most important aspects. So yeah, I feel like I want to continue what I'm doing. I feel like I'm learning a lot and getting the skills that I was hoping to develop. So I think I'll continue for a while, like maybe do grad school in the future, not sure yet. So yeah, right now, probably stay on the same path.
Great, thank you, Maya.
Yeah, and I'm kind of in between both Tommy and Maya's answers. I do want to stay in the same field that I'm working in right now, but probably transition to something else later on, either in another year or so, or maybe after grad school. But I just think, like, especially when you're young, like these times now, that most people don't stay at the same job for more than, I guess I hear 2 years. So I think just a lot of people just tend to move around now, and I think that's really good too, because one, you don't want to stay in the same job for too long. Sometimes you burn out, but also other times um, being able to move around and having a lot of mobility gives you a lot of opportunities to build other skills that you wouldn't necessarily have by staying in the same job.
Great, thank you. And another question that came through for Aldrin is, could you talk a little bit about your experience with the civil service process at the federal level, or moving from the White House internship to federal government? Did that kind of lead a clear path, or did you have to completely go through the civil service process?
It's a bit different. It's a bit murky, especially if you're working in foreign or on the federal level. Transitioning from one area to the next it can be easy and hard depending on what it is. So the federal government works. How it works is there's two different pathways, either political appointees or career tracks. Career tracks is exactly what it sounds like. They're more permanent jobs, where you start in one area and then you really just like stay on the job. So like a traditional pathway. Political appointees are different, where you apply and then you go through a whole process with the White House, and you're there. Your term basically ends when a different administration moves on. So right now I'm an appointee, so my job is only up until January 2nd, when President Obama leaves office, and then I will be unemployed.
And a follow-up question to that is, what you mentioned that you want to stay generally in the same field, but what does your next step job process look like?
Yeah. So I haven't completely decided that part yet. I will either try to go down a career route, go through the whole process, or apply for another job with the next administration. So another appointee position. On the flip side, I might go a totally different route and join the public sector or a nonprofit.
Great, excellent, thanks. So if anybody has any questions, last questions, please send them in now. But in the meantime, one final question, unless any more questions come in, is if you could leave all of the fellows with one piece of advice in the last 2+ months of their service year, what would it be?
I can get started. This is Tommy. Since if people are job hunting, I would say, like, what do you think you want to do? What do you think you're good at? Sometimes you don't pick the job picks you. So and then like Z said, be open-minded. If you think like you may not like this job, but you have the skills for it, and maybe just try it out, and then like you'll like it. Or if you don't, then just try it out for a few months or a year, and then move on to something else. Don't think that, oh, just because I'm applying for a job and or if I got the job, that I'll have to be there for the rest of my life. You can, like Algin said, you can move around because we're still relatively young and still relatively recent grads. You have the freedom to try different things and not feel restricted. As far as CivicSparks go, the last 2 months is like kind of wrapping up and organizing things for the next cohort. And I think you enjoy it because it actually goes by fast, even though like in the middle and the beginning you think, oh wow, this is a long commitment and whatnot, but it goes by fast. So the last 2 months, enjoy it, because then for the most part you're not going to really keep in touch or see a lot of your, I guess, teammates or your supervisor after that, unless you stay in that area. Enjoy it, and try to, if you have more time, go to different events in the community or things like that. And yeah, just enjoy the last couple months.
Thank you, Tommy. Maya or Aldrin?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Aldrin, did you want to go?
No, go ahead.
That's a hard question, but I think I would say, like, make sure you use the last few months to build a really strong relationship with your regional partner and make sure that you're really showing your value, really showing that like you're good at your job, you're good at adding value to projects and making their job easier, and really getting things done, because they're the ones who are going to be giving you the reference, who your future potential employers are going to be calling. And if they really like you, that's going to be reflected in your job application.
Great, thank you. Definitely good advice. And
This is this is just a follow up to use your network, and I mean really use it, especially if you're applying somewhere where you think you might have a connection, or even better, multiple connections. Doesn't matter how many degrees of separation there are between that person you know and the hiring manager or whoever else works in that organization or a company that you're applying to. The more people that can vouch for you and back up your statements, the better. And just and good thing to keep in mind is that if you're not doing everything you can to get that job, the chances are someone else is. And the other thing is just like Tommy said, have fun with like the last couple of months and go to graduation because it was a lot of fun.
Great. Well, thank you all so much for spending so much time talking with all the fellows today. Much appreciated, and great to hear you all again. Missed you. Well, thank you all so much. I'll be sending around a recording of the webinar as well as all the resources that I mentioned throughout the presentation in the next couple of days. But if you have any questions for any of our panelists, just send them my way, and I can follow up with them in the coming weeks. So thank you all again, and hope best of luck in everything else that you're doing.
Thanks. Good luck, everybody.
Thank you. Good luck, everyone. Good luck, All right. Goodbye.